Welcome back to Secrets of the Sire. We do this every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, talking comics, movies, TV, and pop culture. Now we're going to do the C in comics. We are going to go spinning the racks.
Spin the rack, spin that rack.
All right, we have changed Spin the Racks. We've kept the song because it's great, but we want to give you a little bit of insight and our own opinion into what's going on in the comic book world. And right now, the big conversation is House of X. It is the Jonathan Hickman scripted reboot, essentially, of the X universe. Some quick backstory for all you MCU fans out there. Marvel basically was in the same situation they were in with Spider-Man, where they licensed out all their X-Men movies. And then this was seen as a great thing because X2 came out and X-Men came out. It was this amazing thing, right? These movies make lots of money. Then eventually Marvel's like, no, we're going to do this ourselves. And they launched Marvel Studios. Everyone's like, Marvel Studios, that's never going to work. It does work. It works so well to the point where Marvel, as an entire entity and corporation, was just like, we need to do whatever it takes to tank these other franchises so that we can get the rights back to them. Didn't work necessarily, but they essentially went about tanking the entire X universe for many, many years. Hassan, put us back into the 90s when you were collecting comics. What was the number one comic book out there?
X-Men.
What did everyone...
Uncanny X-Men specifically.
What did everyone aspire to want to read or write or draw?
Everybody wanted to read, write, or draw, especially draw, the X-Men. They wanted an X book. It's, there were so many of them, they were referred to as X books.
Yes. Wolverine was literally in every book, too, at the same time.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was an oversaturation of X.
Yes.
And the Avengers were kind of a joke.
Big joke. I mean, this is the thing. People, they can't even fathom this. Like,
no, they can't. Because it doesn't, even you and I have a little trouble remembering, like, how big X-Men were versus how small the Avengers were.
Yeah.
And Iron Man was like, it was niche. It was quaint.
Yep. Yep.
So, look, the stuff that MCU has done for their adjacent characters, the other great thing about that, without even going on a tear, is that those were the characters that Marvel owned outright.
Right.
And they managed to turn those into household names and tank other franchises, which is, look, the biggest movie in the world is an Avengers movie.
Yeah.
It's
I know.
insane. It's absolutely insane.
I know. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you'd be sitting there going, like,
no,
what?
Not at all.
Like, there was literally a battle 20 years ago, or
I used to
over 20 years ago.
I used to think the Avengers were weak. I'm just like, Captain America and Iron Man.
But they were saying, like, Mark Waid's run on Captain America back in the 90s was like, they were astounded that someone could actually make Captain America cool. Like, the thought of him actually being cool.
I said that when they announced they were going to make a Captain America movie. Yeah. I was like, oh, they just tanked it. Yeah. That's going to be... Because I remember the same crew that went to see Green Lantern. We went to see Green Lantern in the same movie theater. It was all of us. And we didn't expect Green Lantern to be great, but we didn't expect Green Lantern to be as bad as Green Lantern was, right? And so the whole time for Captain America, we were like, here we go, we're going to do it again. 2:00. It was late because we got a print to the movie. That's when I worked at the movie theater, and we got a print to the movie, so we were going to watch it the day before it debuted. And we just went in, it was like, this is going to be such a... And then we were literally like gobsmacked.
Yeah.
The sequence where they made Steve Rogers into Captain America for the first time, and he chases down that cab.
Yep.
And you're like, this is working. This is fantastic. This is adventure. This is a period piece superhero movie about Captain America, and it has this really sad, touching ending. Yeah, that actually refuses to resolve itself for 10 years. It's an amazing accomplishment. It really was. It really was.
So I hope we have set the backdrop as to what this means now that Marvel owns, or Disney owns, the Fox universe. And now all of a sudden they're like, hey, let's take our X-Men characters and make them relevant again. So that is what House of X and Powers of X is.
Supposed to do.
So we are reviewing the first 3 issues of both. Actually, the first 2 issues of House of X, first 3 issues of Powers of X. the big reveal, spoilers again, if anybody hasn't read any of these things, is Jonathan Hickman, who is best known for his Secret Wars and his Fantastic Four run. Secret Wars was an absolute joke and horrible because it was late, so you could never really figure out what the story was because it just never came out. There was like just months where it
didn't coincide with the other issues that it was supposed to come out with, right?
Right, and it was supposed to like kind of reboot the Marvel Universe, and it really didn't do a good job of it. But his Fantastic Four run, everyone keeps telling me, is supposed to be great. So here he is, kind of taking on the X-Men universe and kind of rebooting the X-Men universe. We have elements of classic X-Men, and we have the island of Krakoa, right? Is that
Krakoa? Yeah.
Yeah, which was the original giant-size X-Men issue, where Dave Cockerman, I think it was Len Wein, right? It wasn't Claremont on giant-size X-Men. Rebooted the original 5 X-Men and brought in characters like Colossus and Wolverine and Nightcrawler.
That was Claremont and Jim Lee, wasn't that?
What are you talking about? Giant-size X-Men. Giant-size, 1975.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah,
come on. Another giant-size X-Men. That remember when they launched just X-Men, it wasn't Uncanny anymore.
Right. No, yeah, that's just X-Men. Okay. That's just X-Men.
Yes. So
you have. I'm saying Hickman is pulling. I get you. Hickman's like pulling from all the way back.
Yeah.
And there's elements to this. Again, I'm not a huge Jonathan Hickman fan in terms of his style. I don't know anything personally about him. I'm not a fan of his style. I think his style is usually very academic. However, reading House of X brought me immediately back to like Grant Morrison's run, where you're like, wow, I'm reading something different. But at the same time, it was different, and at the same time, it tied into the past, bringing characters like Moira McTaggart back, bringing like the island of Krakoa, and kind of tying that into this new venture that Xavier is hoping to kind of accomplish in terms of the mutant human relations. I'm happy we're not seeing the same old Magneto again. I'm tired of reading Magneto storylines where he just tries to take over the world. Like, we're good with that. I'm good with that.
Although there were elements of that in there.
Yes. Yeah, right. Everything stayed true to the character. So right off the bat, I got to tell you, very impressed with these issues. The big reveal, though, was that Moira McTaggart has been a mutant all along. Sorry, this is spoilers, but I already gave you the spoiler warning, and this is the tail end of the show. So at this point, you should have seen this coming. She has the mutant power of reincarnation. That is driving sales of House of X #2 up, which I have my own copy, which is great.
Well, that's good to know that the comic book is doing well.
Oh, yeah. It's like $30-$40 on eBay right now.
Nice.
Hassan, your take so far?
My take is mixed. I think I applaud a new direction.
Mm-hmm.
I think the visuals, I think the comic book is drawn stunningly.
Yeah.
I think the not only are the pencils
smooth
and consistent and beautiful, but also the coloring is vibrant. It lifts it right off the page. That was one of the main. That was the thing that mainly got me continuing to thumb through it. Right?
Can I interject also for a quick second? Yeah. The level of bad that the X books got was.
Yeah, I don't even want to. I was trying to keep it all positive.
No. But there was a time, like seriously, about 5 years ago, where you're just like, they would just throw like the hackiest artists on it, and you're sitting there going, like,
you're ruining the positivity. But yeah,
no, but this was. I mean, it was X-Men. X-Men was always like, again, the book anyone wanted to draw, so that you'd always have your top pick of like the top artists, and they just didn't even care. Didn't even care. But they're back now.
Just wants to keep talking about the bad. Okay.
No, talking about how good the new art is.
Yeah, you don't need to say good things by trashing the bad. I
did.
I know you did, because that's how small your brain is. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Anyway, that's my take on it. I had more elaborate stuff to say, but
what about the reincarnation? Which is not. You said it, right? Because we talked off air, and you said it's not really power of reincarnation.
That idea is terrible. That idea is ruining, very strongly ruining any new direction that this is going in, and not because of the concept of the fact that she is preborn, which is an old concept by Frank Herbert in Dune, but that doesn't matter, right? Feeling, so it's okay. It's comic books. It's a pastiche of everything, but it's not reincarnation. she's living the same. What he failed to explain is she's living the same life over and over and over again.
Right.
So the concept where it was interesting, where she would die and then be reborn a few days after she died in a new body in a contemporary time, which would make it interesting.
Right.
Is ruined because she's Groundhog Daying.
Yes.
Back and forth, and it's like, well, wait a minute,
yes,
and then the way he explained it, you kind of have to just figure it out, because you're like, wait, she how can she meet Xavier again in the next life,
Yeah.
And how can so then she gets threatened by Destiny, right? Oh, blah blah this and blah, you're only going to be able to do this 10 times. How do you know? I mean,
Destiny can't even see her own death coming. She gets killed like. I remember she gets killed in the original Uncanny Run too from Chris Claremont. So,
but that's what I'm talking about. It's like, well, wait a minute though. What do you? She's neutralized.
Yeah.
She's never going to be anything. All you have to do is survive, is outlive her time of being alive. That time.
Yeah.
Right, because everybody else's life is linear.
Mm-hmm.
So if she's a threat to you, if you're deciding she's a threat to you, that means you're immortal, and that you travel through parallel dimensions, and you're going to keep running into the same person, right? But that's not what was happening. So the whole idea that people were threatened by her reincarnation is nonsense.
Yeah.
Because all they have to do is avoid her for that one life.
Right.
And then they could go about their business. She can't really do anything. And if she's living, I don't know, is she living? It's so, the concept is so
very Edge of Tomorrow, where he basically
clumsy. But Edge of Tomorrow was based on a particular set of moments, right? In the character's life, and he was trying to accomplish something in the set of moments that he was.
Well, she technically is also. She's trying. She's, by Powers of X #3. You essentially understand that she's tried this 7 other times,
which is fine, and that's perfect. But then the speech that Destiny gives her, is nonsense, because they don't have to worry about, if they kill her, that's over for them.
Yeah, because
they're still in a linear timeline. They're not going to have to worry about her ever again after they've killed her that one time.
Right.
She'll come back, and maybe she'll change life, but they won't know it.
Right.
I know. Like, why treat her like she's a villain?
Mm-hmm.
If that's it seemed like a solution in search of a problem, and it's not really. It was just, that was the only really clunky thing. It was high concept.
And what Chris Aaron had to us last week too is that there are some errors that he's going to fix in the trade, and it's like, really, you've had a whole bunch of time to figure this out, and there's errors in your story. So
how do you admit in the midst of the run that this is a problem? You would say that's something you would say after the run is over and you're going to do a trade, right?
Right.
That's like after the original run of Spider-Man is over, you re-release Spider-Man with extended scenes in it.
Right.
You don't tell the audience before they go in to see it for the first time, hey, 6 months after you see this, we're going to re-release it with better scenes in it. You don't. That's nonsense. It's just, look, the art is beautiful, the coloring is fantastic.
The concept is, though, to me, the concept is strong enough, though, that I'm interested to see where it goes. I like the fact that we're reading these parallel timelines. They're not, well, I guess they're parallel in the sense that, I mean, it's supposed to be one linear timeline, but it's really not. You find out by the end of Powers of X #3 that the 1,000 years later, the Apocalypse timeline that you're watching is actually Moira's 9th life, and this is now her 10th life. So, but she has the information she needs to somehow kind of save humanity.
But they don't explain how these lives work. How are the lives getting progressively worse if she's reliving the same life over? Is she the one making the changes? Is she the cause of these things?
I think they intimated that. The other problem with it, though, too, is the fact that just like anytime you retcon anything, you retcon something, it's immediately going to make you go back and be like, well, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. Her reaction here shouldn't make sense. Like this. Not
only that, it's a paradox loop, because you're never going to be able to set up the perfect timeline.
Yeah.
Because if that's your goal for your story goal is the perfect timeline.
Right.
at the end, once they kind of achieve it, or they come close to achieve it, or they actually do achieve it, what's to stop someone from changing it again?
What I was
That's
hoping
not a
for.
resolution.
Yeah, what I was hoping for. I actually had the exact same thought when I read House of X #2, that Moira lived a past life like in the 1700s. Like that's the way it looked like to me. It looked like a real like rustic kind of farmhouse,
which was really interesting.
And then it was like, oh, then she
thought
comes
it worked
back
that way,
right?
Because you probably were reading it that's the same way I was reading it.
Yes.
And then what happened is at a certain point you kept running into walls. Like, wait a minute, now,
right?
How is she back in college with Xavier again?
Right.
How is she? And then you realize, wait a minute, she's just being reincarnated in the same body,
right,
over and over again. Which then
she's reliving the past as opposed to
the high and low from it was kind of crazy for me.
Yeah,
because when I first started reading, I was like, wow, this is really interesting.
Yeah.
And then when I realized, like, well, it's like I'm so sorry, universe. I'm gonna tear down your boy again. It's like when I watched Looper, and I was like, well, this is high concept. Oh, that is such a glaring mistake that ruins the entire film all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And it's just one of the
what I was hoping when I was reading it was like, he's gonna reboot this by putting us in Moira's eyes, and that's how he's going to reboot it. Like I like when comics reboot themselves, because I think they absolutely actually need to, while not destroying the continuity that came before, but some sort of story event happens where now everything is kind of starts fresh again.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's as a result of a story that's been building for years.
What about the Young X-Men with Jimenez, that whole run, the trial of Jean Grey? It's like that's another thing about all these reboots. I'm so burned out on the entire concept being reworked again. The fact that you're into it and you're excited about it is awesome.
Yeah.
I'll just try to ride your enthusiasm for it, because I am like, okay, like when I read it as an assignment for this show. Yes. I really did.
Yeah.
And then I started really getting into it. Like, no, wait, this is really. And then the kind of mistakes started popping up.
Right.
And then it was like, wow, this is not even a perfect. It's yet another reboot, and it's not even, in my opinion, at this moment in the process. In my opinion, it's another reboot, and it's not even a really good reboot. I think at
this point, and this again, we're just tying it back into the MCU. Yeah. I think at this point it's going to stick, and I think at this point, anyone out there who has a passing interest in comics, passing interest in X-Men, passing interest in what's going to happen in the MCU should pick up the series, because I think it's going to actually, set the stage for things that we're going to be watching. And ironically, I agree with you. I think everybody should read. Why is that ironic? Because I just spent like 10 minutes saying it's not that great, but. If you guys out there have comics that you would like us to talk about and wax poetic about and be positive about, we're going to stick to positivity on this as much as possible. Yeah. We're not going to. Well, I'm going to. Well, we'll try. Go to secretsofthesire.com. Go fill out the contact us form out there and send us your comic if you would like us to talk about it. If we like it, we will. If we don't, we won't. It's just as simple as that. All right, next week. Huge announcement. Very super excited. We are welcoming back Kevin Bacon alongside his brother, Michael Bacon, onto the show. They are the Bacon brothers when they're not making movies and being awesome at life. Michael Bacon is actually a film composer and a TV composer. He's an Emmy Award-winning composer. So he's working a lot of times behind the scenes in the movies. Kevin Bacon, obviously, is full front in the forefront of movies and TV. They are a traveling band. They're a folk act. They're really awesome. They're going to debut a new single on our show, which is awesome. And they're going to do a whole bunch of cool things next week. Tune in for the Bacon Brothers. We'll see you guys then.